What's up, everybody? I'm John Middlekauff. You know what I need you to do. Subscribe to our YouTube channel. We got content for days reacting to every NFL game all the time, every single day. Subscribe, like the videos. Let's go. What is going on, everybody? Happy early playoffs. We have the college football playoffs going. The two NFL games had a playoff feel to it. Definitely. Listen, if you love football, there is nothing like whether it's Flacco, Roethlisberger, Tommy Maddox. I don't care. Obviously, it's incredible with Lamar and Russell and Tomlin and Harbaugh. That was awesome. The Ravens get a huge win, and I would say Lamar, as Steve Young once looked at Gary Plummer, that he could not beat the Cowboys, and he finally did. Now that was to get him to the Super Bowl. And Steve said, "Take the monkey off my back," and that's what happened today. Lamar was awesome, and I still think he's got an uphill battle to win the MVP because of the momentum, but awesome performance beside the one pass, which might not have been his fault. The Ravens get a big win. I do want to dive. I thought today with the Chiefs and the Ravens, it was just a display of the front offices. On top of obviously, two of the best quarterbacks I don't know we've seen in recent memory, but the Texans, Steelers first. We'll dive into them. The Texans, obviously, the Tank Dell injury, who was playing, who looked awesome, was pretty tough to watch, and the emotions of C.J. Stroud crying and all their comments after the game. So, man, that was tough. Clearly, it was not a good injury because he went right to the trauma center, and he's not even flying back with the team. So, we'll keep our fingers crossed that his everything's going to be okay. Big picture, obviously, his season is over. But all four of these teams, you can take a deep breath, slam some Gatorades, and get right back on the horse because you're playing in 4 days here on Christmas. So before we dive in to a little NFL football, listen, Christmas right around the corner, Hanukkah also right around the corner. You want to get a gift. My friends, the official ticketing partner of this podcast, Game Time, has you covered. Here's the thing. Just any event, sporting event, college event, concert, comedy show, you name it. Just take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, use the code JOHN for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account, redeem the code JOHN for $20 off. Download the Game Time app today. Last minute tickets, lowest prices guaranteed. That was awesome. Just the physicality, the violence, how important every play felt. Sign me up for Pittsburgh Steelers and Baltimore Ravens till I die. That feels as good as it gets. That is as good as the NFL has to offer. The tangible hatred and venom that it feels like the two teams have for each other. Both of them, their core guys, are just such tough physical players. The violence guys play with on defense, just the overall, up until the last, once the game got a little out of control, once Russ threw the pick six. But up till then, you're just on the edge of your seat. Even when one team, looked like the Steelers were going to pull ahead early, and then Russ fumbles late, Lamar throws the pick, you think the Steelers have a chance. It is fantastic television. For as crappy, we'll see how Ohio State and Tennessee goes tonight, but for as good as bad as those college games have been, that game was riveting. That's why I watch football. It's why I talk about football. So congrats to AFC North football. Now, we need to give this guy some props because he's taken a lot of shit. He's an incredible player. He's one of the most versatile players we've ever seen in the history of the NFL. And you could argue he's having his best season ever, and the guy's got 2 MVPs. But he's had something that he hasn't been able to overcome. He has not played well against the Chiefs, and obviously he has not played well against the Steelers. Even though in this weird twist, because of some injuries and some Week 18 clinch games, doesn't matter, he hasn't played the Steelers that many times at home. I thought today he was brilliant. And it shows you can't box score scout, players in football. You got to watch the game. He has games statistically that blow this thing out of the water. But, one thing that I think over the course of his career when he's played last year the Chiefs in the AFC Championship or earlier this year against, the Steelers is like he freaks out and he gets really frenetic that he doesn't do against these random teams when he's just blowing their doors off. And today you saw the guy that you see against the New York Giants and these random teams, completely poised, completely under control. The Steelers do a really good job of corralling Lamar in the run game, but the Steelers have issues on their secondary, and he eviscerated them in big spots. Obviously, the touchdown throws. He had a fantastic touchdown throw to Bateman in the corner of the end zone. Mark Andrews wide open, hits him with ease. Some awesome throws to Zay Flowers. I thought he was brilliant today. And he was, if he plays like that in these big games, because he's kind of gotten to this point where he's just going to be judged on big games in the playoff games. Like his stats speak for themselves. He's like already a Hall of Famer. Just from an eye test standpoint, he's got to be, the most electric player, I think, in like the history of the NFL. But today, like that's winning high level football. And this is something that like the conversation is and the narratives and that stuff, it doesn't change until you do it. And to play like he did today, because part of the way he dominates, right? He has become, and even Brady said it today. I thought Brady had a good broadcast. Brady's kind of coming into his own. Is their passing game has taken a big step in terms of the complexity to it. But like where Lamar is an unstoppable force is where he's running around on you, and then you start freaking out, and then it becomes much easier to pass. Well, one thing the Steelers clearly focus in on is we're not going to let the guy run wild. Like if Derrick Henry's going to beat us, then he's going to beat us, and he did. But they do not. They corral Lamar pretty well, and it didn't phase him today. And obviously, it helps with Derrick Henry going nuts. But to me, his calmness, how poised he was, and his accuracy down the field, beside the one pass, which, who knows? Maybe if you're sitting there with Munkin and Bateman and Lamar, maybe it's not totally on Lamar. But regardless, that pick in that spot, you're only up a touchdown. You have the chance to kind of put him away. Felt like it could swing the game. And then Russell's like, well, I'm going to make a pass that is 50 times worse than that one. And listen, that's a fantastic win, a fantastic performance by their offense. And I think one big difference last year to this year offensively for him, obviously Andrews back from the hip drop tackle that knocked him out. He looks really good. Zay Flowers has taken another step for them. The ability, obviously, to stretch the field on the outside, but they can work him over the middle. He's pretty strong for a small guy. You saw, late in the game breaking that tackle. He's added an element they haven't had. They drafted Bateman, I think, in the first round, whatever, a long time ago. And, early on, I was like, I don't know if this is working. They just kept developing him, and he's become, a really solid player for them. But you get this type performance from Lamar, like that's what everyone is, gets so down on him about the playoffs is like the calm, cool, collected, like I'm going to dominate this game if I have to as a passer because I can't run it and because the Steelers, they have so much team speed on the outside with their pass rushers, and they're good at playing them. Obviously, they're much more comfortable because they see him twice a year. They see him on cross tape all the time. He's just a huge part in their building. Like they're not intimidated by playing him a lot like the Chiefs. And he made him pay today, with his arm. So big boy performance from, one of, if not, on a given week, the best player in the NFL. And, I think big picture for today, I thought the front offices of Brett Veach and DaCosta and the Ravens and the Chiefs really shined. I think you see Derrick Henry, like they got the guy for $9 million guaranteed. And he's easily been, him and Saquon, two of the best signings in recent memory. The guy's going to rush for like 1,800 yards. And he's a big game player, bright lights guy who has thrived against the best teams it has passed in playoff games. So you think he's going to be intimidated against the Steelers? I mean, he was awesome. And, we've been saying for a long time, like, the Ravens, he doesn't have a good enough pass offense. He doesn't have good enough weapons. Like that Zay Flowers pick last year, that dude's a fucking baller. He really is. And on the flip side, like the Chiefs, like obviously both these two teams go as their quarterback goes. this, they're obviously really, really good defenses, and the Ravens are playing much better in the back end. And it shows you when you have stability and you have a front office who is not living and dying on a weekly basis, on a yearly basis. You have a coach and you have a GM that are just going to be there for a long time, that you don't overcorrect or panic. And early on, Zach Orr, which is a crazy story, right? He had the devastating injury. I remember scouting him when I was in the league. I mean, he was a really good player when their defenses were really good, and like Ray Lewis had Reed days, and has his career short, gets into the coaching world, and early on it looked like, God, this is not working out, especially because of the guy he was replacing. And now they make the move. They put Kyle Hamilton back in the secondary, which obviously played a huge role today when they go for it on, it was 4th and 5 or 4th and 6, which I'm fine with going for at midfield because the Steelers have not covered anybody all day long. And really the last 2 weeks, they've been getting shredded. Their secondary right now is a major problem. And Brady goes, I'd probably punt it here. I'm a little more conservative, but I don't like this play. It's like, Tom, this Pittsburgh defense is not playing like the Pittsburgh defense that we talked about like the first 9 or 10 games. Injuries, but they're just not covering anybody. You cannot feel comfortable that you're going to get stops against Lamar Jackson and Derrick Henry. I'm all for going for it. But then when you go for it, it's one thing when it's 4th and 15 and you're kind of desperate. It's like, yeah, there's not that many plays that you feel good about. But when it's 4th and 5 or 6, I need several routes that are 7, 8 yards to give my quarterback a chance. And to run Austin, who looks awesome down the middle of the field, and you got Kyle Hamilton, who they basically moved to the deep safety, where early in the season he was playing like a linebacker. It's like, I don't love that. Like, I'm not on board with that play call. I'm on board with the decision because I think it was clear the way the game was trending. Like, you got to be aggressive there because you're not stopping anybody. But I just hate the decision of throwing a bomb on a play that's not 4th and 20. Like, what are we doing? And as you saw, at first you're like, was that a PI? No, I was like, never had a shot. Kyle Hamilton's huge, Austin's smaller. Plus, like, he probably easily could have picked it. If they throw that ball 10 times, I bet Kyle Hamilton picks it 6 or 7 times. So, listen, for as good as controlled Lamar was today, beside the one pick, Russell had 2 plays that really, and I didn't think Russell was that bad, but he had 2 plays that cost his team 14 points early on in this game. Russell, when he first came in the league, the Niners were at the peak of their powers with Jim Harbaugh from a defensive standpoint, and that game was a bloodbath. Now, it's probably been a while, playing in Denver and then even at the end of Seattle. He's not used to those bloodbath games, or maybe he's just, I don't know, just throwback, didn't see a guy, thought he could be aggressive. In a game like today, I think you got to be pretty conservative when you see defenders coming up to you. You're not playing the Giants here. You're not playing the Jags. You are playing 11 guys who will fucking destroy you, who want to inflict pain on you. And he got, like, I think he got a little cocky. And even Jimmy Johnson at halftime's like, you got to get down. And he gets hit. The ball comes out. It's at like the 3 or 2 yard line. It's 7-7. If the Steelers score there, it's 14 points. Instead, he fumbles. The Ravens drive right down the field and score a touchdown. I mean, that's a 14-point swing. And then the pick six, like, you get a huge pick from Minka to give you some life and give you an opportunity down a touchdown. And they've been running those boots and rollouts all game long, and he'd been pretty good. But that throw wasn't even close. He hit Humphrey in stride. I mean, he hit him. He hit him in the stomach, and obviously he's getting hit. He's throwing it a little bit behind him, but you either got to eat it, throw it away. You cannot make that mistake there. It cannot happen. Not in a game of this magnitude. Not in a situation like that. And listen, I'm not trying to just dump on the guy like he's some scrub. He has been dramatically better than we all thought. If you're a person acting like you knew Russell Wilson was still a solid starter, I'm sorry. I think you were on an island. There is not many people that were saying that. And how could you if you've watched him play? He has been pretty good. But those 2 plays today had a big, big reason for that team losing. Now, I think also the Steelers, like the Ravens, have really kind of corralled their defense. They've been good against the run all season long. but the pass defense just feels a little more stable. Because early on in the season, it was like you cannot win a Super Bowl or even compete to win a Super Bowl if you can't cover anybody. And clearly they're much better. They hit a couple passes today. One, Austin just made a great play down the sideline. But the Hamilton move has changed them. You just can't make that play. You really can't. And Russell, for his awesome and some of the great plays Lamar made, those two plays with Russell Wilson are going to be hard to stomach. But offensively, they're just not as explosive without George Pickens, and defensively, they're a shell of themselves. I mean, how many times, and it even goes back to the Philly game, right? A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith. Today, Zay Flowers, Mark Andrews. Lively. These guys are wide open. It's like you can't. Part of the Steelers' formula was going to be to compete in the playoffs against the Ravens, against the Bills, and against the Chiefs. We're like, you know what? We're going to be, if not the best defense in the league, one of the best. Obviously, they have a fantastic defensive line. They got bodies after bodies. But if your secondary can't cover a soul, and right now they cannot, obviously they've had some injuries, but you got KZ looking all over the place. I mean, the Andrews touchdown was stealing candy from a baby. I'm not saying I'm like in on Lamar to now I feel more confident, because I couldn't have felt much more confident last year going in. But today, if you're a Ravens fan, makes you feel pretty good. I'm out on the Steelers because you just can't play defense like that. You cannot play pass defense where you can't cover people and have a shot in the playoffs. It's just not possible. Not against Patrick Mahomes, Lamar Jackson, and Josh Allen, because that's the crew of guys you're going through to win games in the second and the third round, right? The divisional round and the conference championship game. So Steelers, they shocked a lot of us, but it feels like at the wrong time, the wheels are kind of coming off. And that was a big boy win by the Ravens. And I think one of those where it's like you're kind of licking your wounds. Now, all of a sudden, you're playing the Chiefs in whatever, 72, or I guess a little more than that. With 72 plus 20, that'd be 96 hours. You're playing the Chiefs in 96 hours, a team that's 14-1, that has back-to-back defending championships or champions, and I thought played one of their better games of the season today. That's who you get? And their passing game's kind of coming alive. Like, I don't know. And then the Ravens, now, obviously the Steelers are at home and the Ravens are on the road, but they're getting the Texans, who just had one of their most talented young players on the team look like his leg snapped. And this is back-to-back years for Tank Dell, who it just hurts your heart to see a guy. Last year, it was, I think, week 11, he had his leg shattered, right? He had a broken leg in the end zone. Today, I think it might even be worse. And all these guys are in tears, pretty rattled. And now the Ravens get them. So this could flip fast. All of a sudden, the Ravens, are the 3 seed, and you are just leaking oil. Who knows? Maybe you're not even a lock to be the 5 seed at this point in time. The Chargers finish with the Patriots and the Raiders. Like, they got 2 more wins. Like, they're going to win 11 games. I think if you're a Steeler fan, you got to be pretty rattled right now. And if you're a Ravens fan, you got to feel pretty good. It's the most wonderful time of year for getting in on all the hoops, football, and hockey action at the DraftKings Sportsbook. It's the season of giving, and we're being gifted college football and basketball, pro football and basketball, and pro hockey too, almost 24/7. So many games every day, so many opportunities to place your first bet. Try betting on something simple, like picking a team to win. Go to DraftKings Sportsbook app and place your bet. And here's a gift for all new customers. Bet $5 to get $150 in bonus bets if your bet wins. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app and use the code JOHN. That's code JOHN for new customers to get $150 in bonus bets if your first bet wins. When you bet just $5. Happy holidays from DraftKings. The crown is yours. And the other game, like I said, the organizational wins today. I mean, the Ravens, how well they've done, built the team around Lamar. Have a guy in Zach Orr who had mentored under Harbaugh, under Mike McDonald. Reminds me a little of D'Amico when they elevated him to be the defensive coordinator after Robert Saleh left. You have a guy you're comfortable with, you believed in, you let him go through the growing pains, and now he's coming into his own. And the Chiefs, like, one thing that stuck out to me, obviously Mahomes, I don't understand how the guy can have an injury where he looks like it's just he's going to miss a month and then come back the next week on a short week and not only look completely normal, but like look spry, look like he shows no signs. He's got to have Brady forever talked about pliability. I don't know what the hell he's doing. Clearly, he's not a big lifter with the dad bod, but his flexibility is second to none, and was awesome today. He's building a rapport with Worthy. But think about it. Chris Jones. They made a pretty big decision a couple years ago, which most teams would not have done. When you have a Tyreek Hill in the peak of their powers, how many of these teams are like extending wide receivers at these crazy numbers? And they said, you know what? We're going to double down on Chris Jones and we're going to trade Tyreek Hill. And that move changed their whole franchise because it not just traded Tyreek Hill and freed up the money to put other spot. They ended up getting Trent McDuffie because of it, who is obviously one of the best defensive backs in the NFL. And in that draft, they also got Korlofskis. So they got two guys who are, stone cold killers and could play for every team in the league and are just awesome winning players out of that draft as they pivot. And then they had the money to give Chris Jones, who, like they mentioned today on the broadcast, he told us in the production meeting, like, listen, my stats aren't as good this year as some previous years. I'm getting double teamed more than ever. And I think I'm playing better than ever. And all my guys around me are eating. Like, you just watch him today, you're like, this guy's an unstoppable force. And clearly he's a bright lights guy. The bigger the game, the bigger the opponent. Today, Christmas, the playoffs, like, better watch out for that fucking guy. And look at Worthy. It's like, of course the Chiefs got Worthy. And early on, takes some time to get a rapport with Mahomes. It feels like they're kind of coming into their own. They still miss a couple times, but I think Worthy, this is the worst he's going to be for them. Just get ready. Next year, he's going to look dramatically better in this operation. And then in the middle of the season, they're kind of desperate for some help. They trade for one of the best wide receivers of his generation. I get he's a little older. And today, how many big third downs did DeAndre Hopkins have? It's like this team, that there's a physicality to the Chiefs that I would say early on in the era, clearly they didn't have. And now defensively, they're just so good. Their coordinator, and the advantage they have of Spags not being a threat to go anywhere. It's like you could argue they have the best defensive coordinator who's not a head coach in the NFL, and he's never going to leave. He's probably just going to retire when Andy retires. They just get to keep him. Like, he's not even going to get interviews for head coaching job. There was a play today. I think it might have been on the second to last drive for the Texans, and he called a blitz, and his blitzes so often hit perfectly. They were in like a bunch formation. He blitzed the corner off the edge, and before you could even blink, the guy was all over C.J. Stroud. It's just their cohesion on defense as a unit, and they've lost guys this year, is just fantastic. And their team speed is excellent on defense. And if Mahomes is going to play like that today, it makes you think, if this team gets the number one seed, which I don't know how you would bet against them to get the number one seed, I'd be stunned if they lose Thursday night, even though it's a short week, or Wednesday night on Christmas, or I guess Wednesday, as a road team to the Steelers. Like, someone's going into Arrowhead and beating them. Obviously, it's possible. It's football. We've seen it happen before. Joe Burrow did. But last year, and listen, I was guilty. Like, I was betting against it. I literally did. And I got bit in the ass twice. AFC Championship game, Super Bowl. Who's doing that this year? Not a soul. How could you? That team is so good at home. That place, every player, every coach, and every human being that walks into Arrowhead, however many people it fits, 70,000, there's not one human being that is wearing red that for 1 second believes they're losing. I don't think any other franchise can say that right now. Not any other franchise in the NFL. Before kickoff, when everyone's in their seat, when everyone's on the sideline, there is not a soul in the stadium, on the team, on the coaching staff that for 1 second thinks they're going to lose. And the belief they have, what they're accomplishing right now, is just insane. I think I saw someone tweet they had never won 13 games in the history of the franchise, and they had only been to like the conference championship one time in like 50 years. And now they look destined to be for their like seventh or eighth straight conference championship. They've won 14 games for the third time in the Mahomes era. What last year, and I think everyone said this, like last year was the year to get them. And then because this year it's been weird, they play in a lot of close games. Yeah, they're comfortable doing that. And guess what? Yeah, their games are close. They literally win them all. They win all of them. So it's like, would you rather, yeah, I play in some blowouts, but I also don't, and I'm 10-7? Where it's like, yeah, basically all of our games were close, and we went 16-1. Like, I'll choose that. Oh, yeah, we probably have, when it's all said and done, I don't know if I eclipse Brady, but probably the best or one of the best quarterbacks of all time. And a guy that looks destined, if he just coaches for 3 or 4 more years, to not only pass Belichick, but pass Shula as the all time winningest coach. And we have one of the best home field advantages in the history of football, college and NFL included. So good luck. And we have a fantastic defense. And Butker's back now. Looks like he's getting his confidence. So I thought that was a really, really impressive win because the one thing when you play the Texans that aren't as good as we thought they were going to be, they are a hard hitting physical team. And today was, I mean, they lost. Jimmy Ward got carted off. Obviously, Tank Dell got carted off. It does feel, I mean, they won the division. They're going to host a playoff game. But depending on who they play, I mean, I would imagine that most people are going to bet on the Ravens this upcoming week. And I'd be a little stunned at this point if Houston can beat them, that all of a sudden you're looking at a Houston team just kind of limping into the playoffs that kind of have a one and done feel to them written all over them. And, we'll see how this plays out, but I think there's a decent chance Jim Harbaugh and the Chargers could be playing them in that 4-5 matchup. So, I came in, I think when the schedule broke and we found out the college football playoffs were going to be, I would say, overshadowed a little bit by the NFL. I was like, do we have to do this? And clearly, I think at this point in time, the NFL isn't playing on Christmas as an FU to the NBA. The NBA it has no impact on them at this point. I mean, they stole Christmas. They would steal any day. If they play games on that day, they could be going up against Mr. Beast. They could be going up against whatever the popular, it doesn't matter. They will dominate. But I'm kind of glad they were on today because they helped me get through some of the college games. I guess the Texas and Clemson game was good. And me and Jackson will do a video later tonight on all the college games. But I enjoyed that. And like I said earlier, you put Steelers Ravens on my television, whether it's Saturday, whether it's Tuesday, night, morning, I don't care. I am watching. And I think now we'll see. Denver, the Chargers, I think they could win a playoff game. Obviously, they're both going to be on the road. Denver still's got to take care of business against the Bengals here in a week, but just to solidify their spot after losing the Chargers. But I'm pretty confident that the Chargers and the Broncos are going to be. I could see them having an upset depending on who they play, but could also see them both losing. I think the AFC is pretty clear. I mean, we got a three-horse race: Chiefs, the Bills, and the Ravens. And I think the problem for the Bills and the Ravens is they got to go to Arrowhead. And like I said back, which we already know, no one will be attending that game, starting with Mahomes and starting with Andy, that's going to believe they're going to lose. And there's not going to be a Bills fan or a Ravens fan, even Josh, Sean McDermott, Lamar, and John Harbaugh that are like, can we actually do this? Doesn't mean they can't, but it's just, we saw it last year when they fucking both hosted them. They lost both games. So in this Chiefs team, now they're getting their stride a little bit. It's like, I don't know. I like them a lot more now after today and really the last couple of weeks going into the playoffs than we all did last year after that Raider game. And then they found a way to do it on the road. Now they don't have to travel and you're going to give them a bye week. So older players like Chris Jones and Travis Kelce and Mahomes, he's under 30. I think he's 29 years old, but just get that week to kind of take a deep breath. I don't know, man. I'm a big believer that dynasties are good for sports. I mean, we've seen it in the NBA. Like they would die to have a dynasty right now. I mean, the Warriors were good for the NBA. The Yankees dynasty in the late '90s was great for baseball. The Patriots dynasty for 20 years, give or take, was fantastic for the National Football League. So having a team that everyone's chasing, whether you love them or you hate them, you have an opinion about them. And that's the worst thing you can have in sports when you're just when apathy sets in and you just do not care. And I've seen it. I remember doing a radio show in the Bay when Jim Tom Sula was there. People just like, I can't even pretend to care. I'm sure Giants fans know, like, I can't watch Daniel Jones. I cannot watch whoever the quarterback is. DeVito making lasagna or Drew Lock. Like, this just sucks. It doesn't get any worse than this. But every Giants fan has a take on the Chiefs. And everyone's either rooting for them to, like, I kind of enjoy watching greatness, or I'm rooting for them to lose. But guess what? Everyone's paying attention.